explained earlier on Tuesday, diabetes is actually a syndrome. A syndrome is a collection of several symptoms put together. So it's not just a disease, it's a collection of things put together. So it's a syndrome characterized by abnormal breakdown of fats, carbohydrates, and protein in the body.
Abnormal breakdown of fat, carbohydrates
and protein in the body.
Okay.
So you find out that people who are diabetic, when you check their blood sugar level, it's very high. But it's not just due to abnormal breakdown of sugar. So it's all the nutrients when they are abnormally broken down in the body.
Because I was like, why then do we focus on the sugar?
Yes, most people focus on the sugar. In fact, they call it sugar disease. But that's because in the olden days, it was thought to be caused by sugar alone, sugar intake alone. But it has now been found, science keeps advancing every day. It's now been found that for people who are diabetic, even when they take foods that are proteins or fats, all those things still by an abnormal pathway get broken down and converted into sugar.
When you say abnormal now, what exactly is abnormal? So if I eat, for example, white meat, like I'm eating chicken, I'm eating turkey, eating lamb and all of that, what is abnormal? How does that abnormally turn into sugar?
Yes, in the body's pathways, when a person takes in carbohydrates, it is broken down into sugar in the body through a normal pathway. And that sugar is now converted to the stored form, which is glycogen. Then when that same person takes in fat, the fat is broken down and stored in the body as fat, but in the fatty stores. There are certain places called fatty stores. And then when the person takes a protein, the protein is broken down into amino acids. And those are bodybuilding blocks. So if the person is no longer growing, the amino acid is utilized to repair old cells and so on, and then the excess is broken down again and excreted as ammonia products and so on. That is the normal pathway in the body. But for a person who has diabetes, the person generates glucose at all times. So irrespective of what is taken in, glucose is formed. And the fat and the protein are converted by an abnormal pathway through a process called gluconeogenesis. Genesis means the beginning of something. So the beginning of the formation of glucose. Gluconeogenesis is the abnormal pathway through which other food products are converted to sugar in a diabetic patient.
Oh, that's interesting. All right, now, I was thinking, what predisposes one to diabetes?
There's generally a family predisposition, as they call it, because there is something called the diabetic gene. So some people are predisposed by family lineage. So if a first degree relative, let me define who a first degree relative is. My father is my first degree relative, my mother is my first degree relative, my sister is my first degree relative, and my brother is my first degree relative. I'm not talking of sister from the same village, I'm talking of sister born from the same parents. Or if you are half sister, because we have a lot of polygamy, same father, different mothers, and that person is diabetic, you may need to check that is it from the father or from that person's mother. If it's from that person's mother, then I don't have a direct link. If it's from that person's father, then I have a direct link. So that person is still a first degree relative. So there's family predisposition to diabetes. So it's usually inherited. However, lifestyle can also predispose a person to diabetes. People who have a sedentary lifestyle, who hardly move around and do any work, they tend to store up a lot of fat, and because they're not exercising, nutrient and oxygen transport in their body is very poor. So such people are also predisposed. That's people who have sedentary lifestyle. And then we also have drug-induced diabetes. There are certain drugs that can cause diabetes. That's why drugs should not be taken without prescription. In particular, steroids can cause diabetes. We call it steroid diabetes. And that is also common. You see people who want to add weight because they feel the economy is poor and they want to look fresh and robust. You know, people like to look robust. They say a big man or this and that. You know, and they take this prednisolone, which is a steroid. People tend to buy it and they take it. It's a tiny white tablet. They call it mau.
Oh, prednisolone.
Yes, so people take it.
Well, it is prednisolone that is mau, really?
Yes, it is. You know. So, and steroids are such medicines that are very important, but very potent, and we even call steroids a malignant medication because they are used to treat malignancies, cancers, but they could also in their own way not necessarily cause cancers but cause so many diseases. They must never be abused. The steroid must be used by prescription and under the guidance of a physician, because even putting a person on a steroid, the dosing has to be gradually escalated and gradually also de-escalated. You don't just take steroids like that. There's so many side effects, but people take it because they want to look robust and they possibly end up with diabetes and a lot of other problems.
Okay, so we have lifestyle, we have genetics, we have steroid, drug induced. Okay, we'll talk about those in details. Now, what are the myths surrounding diabetes that you've heard?
There are a lot of myths. Of course, the commonest is that they call it the sugar disease, and you hear people say things like, I don't take sugar, I don't take sweet things, I don't like sugary things because I don't want to have diabetes. But a person who doesn't take sugary things can still be diabetic. And the easiest example I can give is people who eat very huge quantities of carbohydrates. I'm not saying that will cause diabetes, but if that person is already predisposed to diabetes and is taking huge amounts of starch all the time, they're going to have very high levels of blood sugar, which, because they are already predisposed, their pancreas is probably not producing enough insulin to break down that sugar, and they become pre-diabetic. So people need to know whether they are pre-diabetic before determining their diet and so on. Okay. Diet is so important.
So important. What organ of the body is responsible for this? Because I hear you talk about the pancreas now. Is it just the pancreas, or are there other parts of the body, organs of the body that helps or makes one predisposed to diabetes?
Yeah, the pancreas is the organ that controls the production of insulin. Insulin is a hormone, and what insulin does is to convert sugar in the body into the stored form, which is glycogen. So when we take food, whatever is converted to sugar in the body is for energy, because sugar is like a fuel, just like I buy petrol into my car. Sugar is the petrol in the body, is the fuel that allows us to have energy to carry our body processes, and moving my hands is sugar, and burning sugar. But the excess sugar has to be converted into the stored form, because in the form of sugar it cannot be stored. That's like a toxin, it's toxic. So the body stores it as glycogen. Insulin is the catalyst that converts sugar to glycogen, and then when I need more energy, it automatically converts back some glycogen to sugar so that I can burn it up as energy. Now the pancreas controls that, and there are two major mechanisms. When there is external sugar introduced into the body, I've just eaten, my pancreas will produce what we call an upsurge of insulin, or the insulin pumps. There are pumps, like the normal pump we use to pump our water. The insulin pump will pump out enough insulin from the pancreas, to convert that large amount of sugar. Then there is what we call the basal body insulin. Throughout the day, 24 hours a day, everybody has what they call the basal body insulin, which is a minimum amount of insulin produced steadily throughout the day in the body. So throughout the day, whether you've eaten, you've not eaten, there's the basal body insulin that is produced to convert glucose to glycogen and vice versa. But when you eat, the insulin pumps should now pump out enough insulin to take care of the sugar in that food. So some people have a fault in the process by which the pancreas produces the pumping of insulin, and those ones are pre-diabetic. There are also those who are pre-diabetic because the basal body insulin, the amount being produced is not enough.
Okay, now the pancreas, how can it be damaged? What damages it? What causes the pancreas to get to this point that it can no longer do this function?
Well, some people are genetically predisposed. You know, I mentioned that there's genetic changes.
Yeah.
So for such people, the only way to know if a person is genetically predisposed is if there's a first degree relative that is diabetic. If my first degree relative is diabetic, I need to go and run a few tests to know whether I am predisposed to diabetes. And those tests will have the HbA1c, they call it glycated hemoglobin test. Ideally, everyone who comes from a family where there's a history of diabetes should do that glycated hemoglobin test. Now, for such people, it does not necessarily mean that the pancreas is damaged, but genetically, there is some reason why the pancreas is not functioning optimally. So we can't really say it's damaged, but it's not functioning optimally. And if such a person modify their lifestyle through diet, lifestyle modification and so on, that person may still escape becoming diabetic. But there are really two types of diabetes, the type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is actually the insulin-dependent diabetes mellitus. In such people, the pancreas is either not producing insulin at all or producing so little that it's as if it's not producing. For such people, they have to be on insulin for life. So for such people, lifestyle or anything cannot change the fact that they need insulin, but it can help them to control the disease better. And then we have the type 2. But the type 1, only about 5 to 10% of people suffer from type 1. The more common type is type 2, which is non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. And then another thing which also predisposes, which I didn't mention, is obesity. When people are obese, they are very highly prone to diabetes because abdominal fat predisposes people to diabetes.
Okay, now, okay, you're going to say something.
Yes, that the person who is obese definitely has stored up a lot of fat in the abdominal region because the fatty stores are already full. And the abdominal region, the cavity, will now take up all the fat.
And then that's where the pancreas is, and it
Yes.
it's just a cycle.
Yes,
it's
generally the abdominal cavity, once there is fat in it, that person is highly predisposed to so many diseases.
Okay, now, is diabetes age related? Is it restricted to one age, to whether because I've heard children get diabetes, I've heard people mid-age and all that. What happened to the age? I thought that a child shouldn't be able to get this, but is it age specific?
Yes, in the olden days, diabetes used to be classified as an age-related disease. So we had what we call juvenile diabetes and then adult onset diabetes. Those were the two types in those days. And the juvenile was the type 1 and the adult onset was type 2. But today, we have children that have type 2 and we have even adults that have the insulin dependent, the adults that become insulin dependent and they were not insulin dependent before, but their pancreas has gone into a burnout. So diabetes is no longer classified along the lines of age anymore. So if you hear anyone talking about juvenile diabetes, then they're referring to something that has been totally outdated and is no longer recognized medically. Diabetes is now either insulin dependent or non-insulin dependent. So a child can have non-insulin dependent diabetes because that child is obese. You know, these days we want our kids to have burgers, all these fatty things and all that, and you find children that are obese, and such children become highly predisposed to diabetes, not because they were born with a pancreas that could not produce enough insulin, but because they've been storing up a lot of fat, a lot of abdominal fat, which now predisposes them to poor utilization and uptake of sugar in the body.
All right, now the 14th we celebrated the World Diabetes Day, and this year it was Eye on Diabetes. All right, why do you think this particular topic? You said something earlier about it being okay. Maybe I should ask first. What can diabetes lead to? What other things can it do in the body? What other diseases can it lead to? And then we'll now talk about the thing. Yeah.
Thank you. The diabetes is actually a chronic disease, and it can lead to so many things. But the major challenges with diabetes are the challenges to we call it micro and macrovascular damage. Vascular means the blood cells. Okay. So micro means the damage to the tiny blood cells. Macro means damage to the big blood cells. So I'll start with the micro, the very tiny blood cells. Imagine the tiny vessels that take blood supply into the eyes. Those are very tiny. So diabetes is the highest cause of the non-traumatic blindness especially in the developing world today. That is, a lot of people become blind because the retina, which is you can't see the retina with the naked eye, it's behind the eye, it's in there. But the retina is where images are formed. You can see me because your retina is working. So my image is formed on your retina, that's why you can see me. So with diabetes, the blood supply into the tiny vessels of the eyes start becoming compromised, and eventually that person, the retina is damaged. We call it diabetic retinopathy, and diabetes is the highest cause of blindness. That's why the theme for this year is Eyes on Diabetes. They want to focus on the eyes, the importance of a diabetic person or pre-diabetic person checking on their eyes very regularly and so on. But there are a lot of other damages. The retinopathy is the damage to the eyes. We also have the damage to the nerve cells, and that's diabetic neuropathy. The nerves, neuropathy means the nerves, and that's why you find a diabetic person can walk on a broken bottle, and you trace blood, spots of blood. The person would not know and go to where they're going, and the broken bottle has cut them up, and they don't know, and you see the stain. Or you find a diabetic person is going somewhere and he left his house with 2 shoes on and gets to the place where he's going with only 1 shoe because the other shoe dropped off and he didn't know. Yes, because the nerves are so badly damaged. It is that bad. So diabetic neuropathy. And then we also have the most severe, because the blindness will not kill. The neuropathy will not kill, at least not so quickly, except if that person gets a big cut and loses so much blood and this and that. But the one that kills the most is the end organ damage. The end organs are the big important, most important organs in the body. Every organ is important, but the end organs like the kidney, the liver, and so on, we call them the end organs. So the end organ damage, the damage to the kidney, we call it diabetic nephropathy. There are just some medical terms you have to. Nephro is the kidney. So nephropathy, and when the kidneys are damaged, that becomes really, really serious. And then you hear that person had renal failure. They were looking for kidney to transplant for that person, and a person cannot live without a kidney because the kidney gets rid of. It is through the kidneys that the body experiences.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about once I'm living with diabetes, what do I do? But let's quickly take some traffic reports here. The earlier reported broken down truck at Ojelegba has been evacuated, but they're still dealing with a backlog. So if you're moving on Ikorodu Road, you're coming in from Fadei end, you're coming in from Obanikoro, which usually is heavy. because of the construction work going on at Fadei. Because of this broken down vehicle that they were trying to recover, it got busier, but they've been able to take that off the road now. So please put that at the back of your mind as you journey. Of course, officials, we're expecting your call so that we know how Lagos is looking like right now. But the normal thing is for us to have calm traffic situation. But let us take a report on what's happening on the Lagos Ibadan Expressway, Lagos Ibadan Expressway, and other parts of Ogun State from Onosanya. Good morning, Onosanya. How are you today? I'm fine, thank you. What's going on? Mm-hmm.